This morning on The Dish, a chef breaking stereotypes in food and life. Chef Ahktar Nawab is a first-generation Indian American with classical training in Italian and French, earning accolades for his Mexican cuisine. He worked in some of New York's best-known restaurants, like the iconic Gramercy Tavern, before venturing out on his own. And now, after 25 years in the restaurant industry, he's published his first cookbook, Good for You, Bold Flavors with Benefits, believing food that is good for you should taste good too. For Chef Ahktar Nawab, there's joy in igniting the flavor and taste of foods both familiar and new.
It's like playful and experimenting, and I think getting in touch with a new set of ingredients and new flavors, I think, is actually very exciting.
And the diversity of the dishes he creates, be it here in Brooklyn for his Mexican restaurant, Alta Calidad.
A shakshuka, which is a really traditional Middle Eastern dish, it's been repurposed a little with these Mexican flavors. So it has poblano peppers and some cumin and coriander, eggplant, red onions. And this is more of our Alta Calidad type spreads, crispy shrimp with salsa seca. More traditional charred steak tacos, and then a little Indian-inspired charred pea shoots with crispy chano. This is our churros, our version of churros. So it's like a requesón, which is like a ricotta cheese, gently folded, and then we cook it gently until they're crisp and airy.
Or for his newly released cookbook.
So it's a gluten-free and dairy-free rice pudding enriched with a little cashew puree.
Are matched by the diversity of the chef himself.
I'm an Indian, born in Milwaukee, raised in Kentucky, cooking Mexican.
Nawab's parents and older brother moved from India to Milwaukee in 1969 when his father, a cardiovascular surgeon, was offered a job. 5 years later, the family, then including Nawab, made Louisville, Kentucky home.
You know, Louisville's a great place to grow up. It was easy to run into people at the grocery store. It's a very small community. But I always felt as though we were one of very few Indian families.
As Nawab describes in that new cookbook, he grew up a first-generation son of Indian parents in a town marked by white bread, who spent weekends in the kitchen cooking saag paneer and keema with his mom.
I never lost sight of the fact that I always had really good close friends, but I always understood that we were a little different than some of the other families.
Do you think that's shaped you now?
Definitely.
How?
I think it's definitely made me more welcoming of, like learning Mexican food after having cooked French and Italian and just Mediterranean and refined American.
Embraced the diversity in a different way, I guess.
Totally.
It's not only in his food that Nawab embraces that diversity. It's also within the very foundation of his business. Because I'm looking at the wall, by the way. No walls here. We support the dreamers.
We've had that up for almost 4 years.
Before this became a fight that people were more pronounced in.
Yes.
Where does that come from?
We employ a lot of immigrants, and it's important to protect them.
This means a lot to you. Why does it mean that much to you?
You know, a lot of these people have very little. To give them an opportunity is important. To treat them well is important. So, I mean, they just depend on us.
When Nawab started in the restaurant business as a 20-year-old, he was the one counting on help from others. He spent a decade working his way from the California Culinary Academy to legendary kitchens on both coasts, working under Tom Colicchio at Gramercy Tavern in New York, only after, Nawab says, Loretta Keller laid the foundation in San Francisco. What did you learn from Loretta?
That's where you learn how to extract all these flavors of ingredients and understand what good ingredients are and not to fuss with things too much. The skill is in preparing what you have, not necessarily twisting and manipulating what you're given. And Tom really had that same approach.
An approach Nawab used at age 32 when he opened his first restaurant, Elitaria, serving those Indian flavors of childhood. It would last just 1 year.
The food was good, everything else didn't work. I just didn't have the experience at the time to manage people, to be responsible for the cost component. Years later, I look back on it and I say, it was really important that it didn't work out.
Turns out, Nawab's failure led to his success. Out of work, feeling lost and uncertain, he spent time with his then toddler daughter, Ella. And that role as single dad taught both father and chef an important lesson.
It really taught me patience, and more than anything, it's like understanding that not everything is going to materialize today, tomorrow, but it's a process.
Which for Nawab included a headhunter suggesting a shift to Mexican cuisine.
I said, I don't really know anything about it. As I got deeper involved and I saw similarities between the Indian food I grew up with and all of these other flavors and characteristics that were so similar, I felt much more comfortable quickly. A lot of the people who live around us are our customers.
As he embraced Mexican cooking, Nawab was also able to embrace new possibilities. In 2016, he and his business partner opened Alta Calidad, followed by Otra Vez in New Orleans and Prather's Alley in D.C. Taquerias and a food hall are now also a part of their ever-growing and diversifying portfolio.
When someone eats a meal, when I take bites of this, what do you hope that I take with me or get from it?
I would love for people to say this isn't exactly what I thought, this is better. I'm experiencing flavors I wouldn't anticipate. It's beautiful and fresh, it feels good, I feel healthy. I mean, all of those things.
And I tasted a lot that day. The rice pudding that I tasted, I ate the entire thing. It was delicious. What we have here for you, though, a little bit of the Alta Calidad tacos, and then our drink is Coyote Wishes, an Aperol Spritz, but again, that idea of the diversity, it's an Aperol Spritz that's made with mezcal.
Ooh, awesome. Coyote Wishes.
Coyote
What a cool name.
So cheers to you all.
Cheers. That was such a poignant moment.
It really was.
With you and him talking about his employees.
Well, and remember, he's first generation, so his family, he's from a family of immigrants. And this is important to him to continue giving them opportunities the way his family had opportunities as well. And delicious food, too.
And he didn't forget it. That's the important thing to know. He didn't. So I'm going to take a bite of my vegetarian taco.
You gotta toss it. I mean,
I'll do it for her.
This is the part of the show where we ask people
Shelley.
to pound a drink, eat, and then speak to the prompter.